Welcome to Part 4 of this 5-part presentation on Consultant Learning, a framework for empowering students to excel and a framework for transforming your teaching experience. I'm Scott Kunkel, professor at the University of San Diego and creator of Consultant Learning. In Part 3, we discussed grading, grading's impact on students, grading's potential impact on student dropout rates, and how grading is changed to coaching in Consultant Learning. In Part 4 of this presentation, we'll learn how the process of consultant learning actually works. The consultant learning process begins when the student actually selects and customizes a set of projects that will allow them to reach their grade goal. To do this, they use the suggested projects booklet that the teacher has prepared, which gives a list of potential projects that the student can choose to undertake, along with a clear description of what excellent quality looks like for each type of project and what each project pays. Before the student can undertake a project, however, the student must submit a proposal. The proposals keep the teacher in control. Students can't just go off and do something without the teacher approving a proposal. Once we agree on the description of the project in the proposal and agree on the consulting fee for the project, then the student is authorized to go do the project. This slide shows the 9 pieces of information that I require students to put into a proposal for my course. Some teachers have told me that they've modified these requirements to match their materials and their course. Number 1 is the type of project, and number 2 is the topic of the project. Number 3 is the rationale. Why is the student interested in this topic? Number 4, information gathering. How will the student gather this information about this project? Will they interview someone? Will they read a book? Will they go to the library? Number 5, deliverables. What kind of report or output will the students prepare to convey what they learned from this project to me or the class? Most projects in my class are written reports or oral reports, but I have had students present a song, a poem, a video, a Jeopardy-like game with questions about the course that the entire class played, and so on. I don't want to limit their creativity, and they will amaze you. Number 6, perspective and audience. If the report is written, they need to define who they're writing to. Since we write differently to a parent than we do to a boss, or an employee, or a colleague, or a customer, and so forth. Item number 7 is the consulting hours, and 8 is the consulting fee. In my class, students are earning $200 per hour in consulting fees, so a $1,000 project should take about 5 hours to research and write. Item 9, the due date. I do allow students to assign their own due date. When the project is submitted, it's either paid or it's returned to the student for a resubmit. If the project is returned, the student must resubmit the project with the first submission attached. That way I can see what I told the student to do, and I don't have to regrade the whole paper. I just look to see if they did the things I told them to do and did them with quality. This is one of the hints on how to keep your evaluation time down so you have time for re-evaluating projects. This process continues until the project is excellent quality. When the project is accepted, the agreed-upon fee is paid. For example, if it was a $2,000 project, I would write across the cover, "Paid $2,000," and return it to the student. No partial fees are paid. The project is either excellent quality or it's not. It's either paid or it's returned to be resubmitted. When the project is paid, it is returned to the student. In my classes, the students are responsible for keeping track of all the records of their performance. Some high school teachers, however, have told me that they need to keep some information themselves for mid-semester grades, and some actually have students submit interim reports and pay the students for submitting the weekly reports. Paid projects are put in the students' portfolios. Students' completed portfolios are submitted to me at the end of the semester or periodically during the semester for some of the high school teachers, and the amount of fees that the student has earned determines their course grade. Students actually earn their grade. This is a very real-world process. Students are also paid for in-class work. For example, I pay students for attending class. In my class, it's on a sliding scale where each additional absence carries a greater penalty. The Student Guide to Consultant Learning is a booklet prepared by the teacher that gives the rules of the game. The Student Guide to Consultant Learning gives the scale for attendance fees. The student can go look up information on how the class will operate without having to come and ask me. Since the rules of the game are all in writing, they can have confidence that the rules won't be changing in the middle of the course. I also want my students to prepare for class, to have read the material. Now, we all know that students don't usually read the material until it's time to study for an exam, so they haven't usually read the material before the class when it's discussed. And since I don't give any exams, all credit is earned by projects, they have no incentive to ever read the textbook. To encourage students to prepare for class, I use a tool called the Call on Me list. I put a sheet of paper on my desk each day called the Call on Me list, and the students may choose to sign the Call on Me list if they're prepared for class. Signing the Call on Me list pays the students $200 a day. Now, fees and fines motivate student behavior. Near the end of the semester, the student puts all their projects in a portfolio and puts 2 accounting pages on top. They submit the portfolio to me, and I do a quick audit of the portfolio to see if their attendance and in-class fees agree with my records, and that for every project that they've claimed payment for, they have a project signed by me in the portfolio. This process takes about 3 minutes per portfolio to do the audit. I record the grade that the student has earned and return the portfolio to the student. The student can actually use this portfolio during their job search. This slide shows a sample of the in-class fees accounting sheet. Note that I left out the middle of the sheet so that it would fit on one slide. For each class, the student checks off if they were there and if they signed the Call on Me sheet for that day. I have to keep attendance and Call on Me information anyway, so I check to see if the sheet is accurate. The total from the in-class fees accounting sheet is carried forward to the next page, the project fees accounting sheet. This slide shows a sample of the project fees accounting sheet. Again, note that a part of the middle of the page is omitted. See how the student puts each project and how much they earn from it on one line. They keep a running total of how much they've earned, and at the end, they total the projects, add the in-class fees, and write the total accounting fees earned in the appropriate block. The student then actually writes in the bottom block what grade that amount of fees has earned. In other words, I don't give the student a grade. They write it on the sheet, and they know what they've earned and what the grade should be for that amount of fees. I just verify that their calculations are correct. There's no argument over fees because the students know exactly what they earned. This slide shows the grading scale that most of the teachers use. 30,000 is an A, 28,000 is an A minus, 26,000 is a B plus, and so forth down to 16,000 for a C minus. I don't give D's, but if you're required to give D's, just extrapolate the fees down $2,000 for each plus or minus. Time constraints in this presentation limit what information I can give you about the nuts and bolts of implementing consultant learning. There are lots of tips and ideas readily available on my website, which is www.consultantlearning.com, and any additional information you can get by just calling me, and my contact information is also on the website. So in Part 4, we learned how the process of consultant learning works. In Part 5 of this presentation, we'll discuss the skills that the students develop as a result of using the consultant learning method. Second, we'll discuss some additional ways of shortcutting evaluation so that you don't spend any more time with reevaluation of student projects than you are currently spending just writing and evaluating regular examinations. And third, we'll discuss what you'll need to do to set up a consultant learning course.